And I'll tell you guys since we're all friends. Every character I write has a piece of me in them. Hi, I'm Leigh Bardugo. You're listening to the GrishaCast.
Welcome to GrishaCast, episode 103.5. In this episode, I will be joined by my friend, silent partner, Hringsa agent of the GrishaCast team. This is your host, Eryk, from Nashville, Tennessee, and also a birthplace for the iconic lift from the 80s classic Dirty Dancing in Virginia. This is your podcast for all things Grishaverse. Woo! A world created by the lovely Leigh Bardugo. So, moi savayani casters, it is I, and I am not by myself. I have a lovely friend with me. I would like to introduce everybody to a very secret person. She's she's part of the Hringsa agency, but also on the GrishaCast staff. Everybody, give a do to Amelia.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here with Eryk. I really appreciate him preserving my privacy. We joked that I am a member of the Hringsa network, deep undercover in Fierda for the Rovkin crown. So we're going to do this to preserve that very important secret.
Hey, I love it. And it's wonderful. So so you are from Virginia. Did you catch my little intro where I said the birthplace of the iconic lift from the 80s classic Dirty Dancing?
I did. And I have seen that movie, a couple times, but it has been a minute, let's put it that way. And I will confess I had kind of completely forgotten that it took place in Virginia. So
Well, I didn't know until today. And I then was like, oh my God. Okay. So that's why I missed even trying to say a world created by la Leigh Bardugo. Yeah, I was too obsessed with getting the Dirty Dancing thing in. And don't worry, that was just putting the intro together. When I found out that Dirty Dancing took place there, I then decided to ooh, maybe I should get some pictures of that lift. And I had this whole idea. I started getting all these Dirty Dancing pictures together and realized I need to probably work on the episode. So
I think what you've done is, once we're done recording this, I'm going to be watching Dirty Dancing because, like I said, it has been a long time, and I think it definitely deserves a rewatch.
Well, don't worry. Then you wait, because once we're done with this episode, I'll have time to actually plaster my face on these pictures, because that's what I was planning on doing. So it'll be me and Patrick Swayze practicing the lift.
I just appreciate that you didn't have time to put the avatar doing the lift. That would have been a lot.
I know. That would have been cute. Yeah, I didn't realize how many people, if you Google this lift, a lot of people have tried to reproduce it. And yeah, there's all these different names for it. But I was like, it's a lift. But it was an iconic thing. Because here's my thing. That song, this was my preschool graduation song, actually.
No.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We sang it, and
Wow.
it was really cute. But I love the song. And this is so iconic. I loved that movie then, but it was so it was risque.
Yeah. No, I don't think I've seen it since I was still young enough for it to be risque.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a rite of passage, that film.
It is, and I've actually met some people that have never even met it, never heard of it,
Yeah.
don't know what I'm talking about, and I just what? That blows my mind. You don't know anything about putting baby in the corner? Come on, nobody puts baby in the corner.
I feel like it's a cornerstone of cultural literacy, right? Lines like "nobody puts baby in the corner." There are just things that you should see Dirty Dancing just once, just so you understand those cultural references.
And I will admit, when I was younger and I was excited because the name was Dirty Dancing, I didn't think the dancing was as dirty as I guess I was wanting it to be dirtier. It's not dirty dance. It's dance. They're just dancing. It's not I don't know. I just thought it was kind of interesting. I was like, this is called Dirty Dancing? Okay. Well, they should see today now. um, anyways, so I thought that was a really cool little fact about your state that was filmed there. So, should we just move right on into things? I think we should, because I mean, Grishaverse is amazing, and we've wanted to do this together for a long time. This has been a long time coming. So
Yeah.
I can't believe we finally are here. Because how long ago did we... Like, I remember you saying, like, you'd love to do this, like, years ago. And it was like, well...
I don't think it was quite years ago. I think it was, I was actually trying to think about this today. I think it was last March. So March of 2021 that you and I first talked about me
That's
helping
it?
out with the podcast. I swear, like, I really think it was that. I think we talked a little bit, but that was when you asked me if I was willing to like help out. And I was like, sure.
Okay.
And then so maybe in the fall we started talking about me coming on the podcast and chatting. And then we've had some delays. So we're glad to do this.
Yeah, of course. Well, but you were part of the staff and you're the silent partner, but I think it's great because our staff is a very small little group of people, but we all are just obsessed with the Grishaverse, so it's amazing and it's fun because I love it. And yeah, so okay, let's get on into this. So your Grishaverse name, this is something I came up with that I kind of obsess on because I love it. I think it's neat to be able to like change your name if you want, or have it be a different spelling, because I think that when you read through the Grishaverse, the names are very different and they have this different feel, and I feel like everybody can change it if they want. So, do you have most people have a different spelling, which is funny because I always ask what your name is, and then it's like we turn into it's more like, okay, well, the spelling actually needs to be out, but we never type it up on the screen. But would you change your spelling? Would you have a different name? What would you do?
So I kind of have two answers for this. And the reason is that for a while when I would think about this, because I think whenever we read fantasy, we like to envision like where we would be in the world, of any stripe. And so my vision though was always that it would be Amelia with an E instead of an A. So Emelia. And that just kind of evoked for me like a Kirch housewife. And so I kind of thought that was just like my fate. And then Rule of Wolves came out. And it's a very, very, very small part. But there is a canon Grisha named Amelia in Rule of Wolves, spelled the same way as me. It's a very, very tiny moment. But one of the Grisha who's saved from Parem by the antidote on the battlefield is named Amelia. And God. So I was so happy. I felt it was like a personal shout out, though of course it wasn't. And Amelia is one of those names where it's become a lot more popular. But when I was growing up, I was like the only Amelia that I knew ever. Yeah. I really loved to see it. It was very fun.
That's awesome. I think you're right still, though. Like, I don't know any other Amelias. Like, I mean, I don't think it's a very popular name. It's a beautiful name, but oh my God, you have to like send me that part that you're in. You know what I actually have always wondered? I don't know if you remember, but there was some kind of like, it wasn't a giveaway, but Leigh did something where if you won, you got to have your like a name or a character named after you in Rule of Wolves. I wonder who that was and what part. Like, I mean, do you know?
I don't. Okay. I had wondered though if it was an Amelia or an Emily, or something similar who ended up winning, and that's the name. Just because it's such a small moment. She gets saved from the Parem, and then like I think Nadia like pulls her off the battlefield. But I have wondered if that could be that name, because I remember that contest as well.
Yeah,
but it wasn't me.
It wasn't me either, and I would have loved to because I think it's funny thinking about this Grishaverse like name. I remember when I started thinking about it, and I was thinking about mine, and so I go by Ethereal Kai Eryk because it goes with it. And then like Eryk. And I thought I was brilliant because I thought that was such a cool spelling until I reread A Demon in the Wood and realized that I didn't actually come up with that. I read it and just forgot about it because it's like the very first sentence. Yeah. I thought it was like brilliant. I was like, so cool. And then yeah, it was funny. So, hey,
Well,
it happens.
and then do you really want to name yourself after the Darkling? I mean, that's a personal choice. You do you, but something to consider.
Hey, we got Michelle is like, so like she loves the dark. A lot of people love the Darkling, but I mean, when I asked her what order and everything and what sub she would summon shadow, she'd be a shadow summoner. So, and I was like, that is bold, girl, because I don't know anybody else that says they want to be a shadow summoner, but it's cool.
You know what? Well, and I remember listening to that
Yeah.
podcast episode, and I really enjoyed hearing that she was just like, "Yep, that's what I want," and it was like, "All right, go for it, girl." Love
I know. I love it. I love Michelle. So, by the way, listeners, I know we keep talking about this, but we are so close to it. But the website will have a really cool test on it that we have created that will put you in your sub order, and we've put a lot of work into it. Right now, we're just finishing the art, and like we are almost done. Like, I mean, it's going to be great. Our website is going to be a place where if you're a fan of the Grishaverse, you can come and have fun. So anyways, just letting y'all know, you can take your own test and find out. Okay, so what order would you be part of?
So I think I'm going to be basic and say Squalor.
Girl, that ain't basic. I'm a Squalor.
Yeah, I'm not basic. I don't know. I wish I had a stronger like opinion about this. I think, wind is really cool. I've always kind of loved storms.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had a more interesting kind of explanation for it. My avatar, as you can see, has her little Squalor.
I love it.
How
did you get that, by the way? Like, I mean, can I get one? I mean,
yeah, so the avatar is from the Netflix Shadow and Bone website.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll have to go on there and get that. I probably am the only person that didn't, and that's funny.
And let me be clear, that's not actually what I look like. That's just like, a quick like.
Girl, I thought that was you.
There.
Really? Well, so I think being a Squalor is really cool. So one, yes, we didn't have a test really to come up with it. I think like I started off by one. My favorite color is blue. The Keftas, the Ethereal wear are blue, and I think like. So that's one thing. Ethereal I thought were cool just in general, that group, because, they summon stuff, and I think it's really neat. I do love water a lot. So I was really close to being a Tidemaker, I thought. But I really think wind would be amazing to, can have the power to do. And as we've progressed in our story, Zoya... She's my main Squalor, my favorite character, and now she can control like thunderstorms and stuff. So I'm all about it.
I think too that because we have spent so much time in the books with Squalors, we know a little bit more about what they can do, right? And so I think like, maybe Tidemakers, alchemy, like we just don't have as many details about some of the nuances of their powers.
Yeah.
Whereas, from, a lot of the stuff in Ruin and Rising, you kind of learn about like different stuff that Squalors can do, right? Like changing the air pressure to hear things that are far away. So I think we have some extra details about Squalors that maybe makes them seem a little bit cooler than others, even though I'm sure in Leigh Bardugo's brain, there's probably those details for every order. We just as readers haven't learned about them yet.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember when I was reading King of Scars and Zoya was trying to find the demon. Nikolai had run off, and she could tell by just feeling the air patterns where he was. Like,
Yeah.
how cool is
Yeah.
that? Like, I just thought that was amazing, and like I was like, it's like, yeah, that's what this is about, and I think it's neat. Yeah, just and wind. I mean, if someone comes and like bothers you, like I mean, whew, I mean, just like blow everybody away.
Yep.
And I do think it's funny because I always, before I read about it, I was like, you could kind of try to work yourself into flying. However, I know I would crash myself into places. But then Zoya like tries to do it at one point, and it's not like yeah, I think it's in King of Scars. She's trying to
Yeah.
like hoist herself up. That's right. It'd be like
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. And I think she like dislocates her shoulder. So like not too pleasant,
No.
unfortunately.
No, but I do like that they add kind of like I think part of Squalors like they do bring I feel like they've got like connections to the weather too because they do in the stories. It's just kind of neat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I think your answer's great. And
Oh.
I haven't met anybody else that's a Squalor. So yay, now I got a buddy. I'm not the only
Yay, that
Squalor
makes
out
me
there.
feel good. Thanks.
So what's your story of how you got introduced to Leigh Bardugo and the Grishaverse?
So I love this question. So when the pandemic hit in 2020, I was really just looking for sources of comfort. I think we were all kind of looking for that in some level. And I was really fortunate, right? Like my family was healthy, I had a job, but I needed an outlet. So I just started reading through like all the big young adult fantasy series of like the last decade. Because if there's one thing I cannot turn away from, it's a trope where like a peasant girl finds out she has magic and like has to save the kingdom. Like we'll never turn away from it. So I was reading like Ember in the Ashes, Throne of Glass, Spoke of the Air that you like, all those kind of books. But when I hit on Shadow and Bone, the story and the characters just really resonated for me in a way that the others, even if I really enjoyed them, didn't. The characters were really great. I loved the combination of the hard magic of the soft science and kind of the soft magic that you have with Merzost. And then, of course, the Six of Crows are just like a whole other dimension. So the whole like series, the whole world kind of became my pandemic guilty pleasure. And I was really glad that I had it.
That's awesome. And it's true. I agree with you. There is something when Leigh like built this world, I think it was just so brilliant because I love it when magic makes sense. Like, and their magic it makes sense. They can't just make something out of nothing. They have to summon like and that that makes so much sense. So, and I agree. I think it's there's something about Shadow and Bone. I know it's her first book, and her writing progresses and you can watch it, and it gets better and better. But Shadow and Bone, that story is just so like the fold and all that. It's just so new. I love it. So I think it like if you read it, it like totally just like captures you and. I was amazed when we got to finally see what the fold looked like. Like that was like a moment that was cool, and so I get it.
Yeah.
Well,
And I just remember too, like searching for other people who had read these books because I was so desperate to talk about them with somebody.
Yeah.
And I remember I would call my little sister and be like, "Can you please go read these so we can talk about them?" But like she was dealing with the pandemic in her own way, and it was not through reading fantasy novels. And so that's actually how I found the podcast was because I was just so desperate to like experience this book with other people who loved it like I did. So I was so grateful to find you guys out there.
that's
Started listening.
awesome. Well, and the reason I started is because I needed someone to talk to about them. Like I didn't know anybody. And yeah, so well, I'm glad you found us. And look, here we are. And it brings me like it's really cool because that's what like I love actually that's probably one of my favorite things about this podcast is the fact that I've made so many awesome friends that we have the same passion, and like I just love this world so much. So I love making friends and and being able to geek out and talk about it because I hadn't been able to do that before, and now that's happening. So that's awesome.
Yay.
So who's do you have like a favorite book, a favorite novella? I know it's hard.
No, well, I actually do. So my favorite book is Ruin and Rising. I think that is Leigh Bardugo's masterpiece of what she's written so far. I just don't think there's a single sentence in that book that is unnecessary, right? Like
Mm.
it's perfect. And I remember when you guys were talking about it on the podcast, I think Terry said something like, "That's how you do an ending," and like I could not agree more.
Mhm.
It's just kind of, I think it all just flows perfectly. So
And see, that's why I think that one of my favorite, I love Lives of Saints, but I love Rule of Wolves so much too because like the ending, like I love it when everything comes together. And Ruin and Rising is an amazing ending. Everything comes together and it fits perfectly and it's so cool. I do agree. And I love that she does the before and after for those. I wish she continued doing those. I wish it wasn't only a part of that like one trilogy, but at the same time it's nice to just have those there. But yeah,
yeah.
I
The
agree.
before and after are really lovely bookends, I think, for each of those stories, especially because they're in first person, which can be, I think, a real challenge.
Yeah. And it's just a neat way to open and close a book because it gives you just a it gives you a unique chance to be able to say what's going on with like also kind of like an easy way to like say what's going on over the world without having to like bring every character into the like what are they actually doing. So
Right.
I think it's brilliant. But yeah, Ruin and Rising it's so good. I just the ending, it's crazy, to be
I
honest.
think I think too, like Ruin and Rising, there's so much in there. I remember like right before Rule of Wolves came out, I went back and reread Ruin and Rising because there's so much in there where like you think it's just like fun conversations that they're having at the spinning wheel, but like it's really layered stuff that like all comes into King of Scars and Rule of Wolves. Like I said, there's just not a sentence in Ruin Rising that goes to waste.
And see, that's why I love you because like those are the things that make me so happy. Like I love like well thought out books and connecting them later and that's why I love The Lives of Saints so much. Like and couldn't wait for it to come out. Like oh my god, like for when I found out that she actually was writing the Story Sanctia, I flipped out because that's my favorite thing when an author writes a book that they created. Like that's just uh brilliant. And that book is filled with so many Easter eggs and they're so cool. And I just love it when everything makes sense and it connects because there's a lot of fantasy out there, but there's a lot of fantasy that can, you can accidentally think of this story and it's the same. Like, I mean, there's a lot of ways to, unfortunately, like copy other, it's not copy, but, just have a lot of things in similar. And I love that these are just, it's fantasy, but it's different. Like, it's a whole different world. And she's thought about it. And that's what I love. So,
And I think too, like it's all in the execution, right? Like, what did I say I can't turn away from? Like a peasant girl who finds out she has magic and has to save the kingdom. That's not a unique plot line, but the way that it's executed and the way
mhm.
she improves the characters, I think is to a large extent, or just it's so incredibly well done. And that's why these books stand out.
Absolutely. Shadow and Bone, I actually read that book when it came out in 2012 And the reason it hit me so hard was because of the fact of I was going through some like deep stuff. I think I've talked about on the podcast about like sobriety and everything. So that was like the year that I was going through that. And to pick up a book and read about a girl who's sickly and just doesn't feel good, but all of a sudden finds out that she actually is more than she's ever thought she is. And the person she's supposed to be actually doesn't feel sickly. She can feel great and amazing, and that's the way she's supposed to be. It was like too much for me to handle. It was kind of like I was just like, I saw so much of myself. Like, I was like, I needed that so much. And that's why, like, to this day, like, I think, like, Shadow and Bone, it means so much to me. I say a lot of the times it is one of my favorite stories just because there's parts of that book that got me through and I connected with so much. And Alina, even like when you get into Siege and Storm and she gets the second amplifier and tries that and uses that power, that description is, I'm sorry, it just reminded me of a pure like addict, and like I just understood that feeling, and it's so nice to feel that, and I think it's really amazing to feel that in fantasy as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm glad we all have our own special connections to it, and that's why I love this question so much, because I love everybody's got their own unique take on what they love and how they like. Yeah, there's so many awesome things. So, do you have like a favorite character since we're on that? Like,
So I do, and I'm gonna score some points with you here, but you have to hear out my reason. Okay. So there are a lot of characters that have a lot of depths, and we've talked about why we love this series, but I think one of the marks is like you can get really attached to the characters, even really minor characters, right? Like Nadia or Leonie. But like I said, I'm gonna score some points with you, Eryk, because I think I'm gonna have to go with Zoya.
oh my god. Okay, so now we're the like, yeah, this is too much to handle. Okay, we're squallers. You love Zoya.
Hear
Go.
me out though for why.
Oh.
So I think she's such an interesting example of watching a character change and grow. Because if you remember,
Absolutely.
she is one of the very, very first characters that we ever meet in Shadow and Bone. Because she's like hanging out of the like carriage, like making eyes at Mal. And so then we see her through Shadow and Bone, through Siege and Storm, and like she is awful, like just unexcusably terrible. Truly the Regina George of the Little Palace.
Yep.
And then with Ruin and Rising, again, like you see this great, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back of like Zoya slowly becoming slightly less awful. But then we get to King of Scars, right? Where we really get to see her as kind of a point of view character. And I would argue that especially when you look at her chapters as opposed to Nikolai's and Nina's, she's the closest thing we have to an unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
So I think that, with the other two, we get a lot of emotions, we get a lot of thought process, we get a lot of like internal monologues. And with her, we see her have like actual conversations where she denies and just kind of elides past what she's really feeling. And there's no real like internal monologue to the contrary. You see that both when she's talking to Juris and Elizaveta in King of Scars. So there's hints here and there, but I think it really keeps you guessing about her and her motives. While at the same time, I think it really stays true to the characterization of this individual who has so often prized safety, right, above her own desires, and kind of sticking with that in the long run. So I just think she's really well written, and I love the overall arc over 7 books or whatever.
I know, it's amazing, and my love for her started early on because I'm sorry, I love a good mean pretty girl. I love them. Like, I mean, like, I just do. Like, I mean, like, it's just so, she caught my attention right off guard. I was like, ooh, sassy girl is up in here. And she's being like, I mean, that line she gives to Alina, like, you smell like an orphanage or something. And I was just like, damn. I just, like, found that, I just thought, I knew there's more to that character. And I was really kind of scared that she wasn't gonna go far, but I'm so happy that Leigh took her all the way to where she is, because it's amazing. And yeah, her arc is fascinating, and it's brilliant because of the way you said it. You're right. I don't think I've ever realized that we don't get in her mind it takes a very long time. It's almost like we have to gain her trust by reading to get to like finally start to get some of what she thinks.
Yeah, I think the writing's very different for her. And I also think too, like, look, I love Nikolai Lantsov as well, but like he's a tough character in a lot of ways. And I think that, giving him a romantic arc was always going to be really, really tough, right? Because if you created a character from scratch, like I just don't think it would have gone well. So to go back to the very beginning and take, almost an anti-hero, I think was perfection.
Yeah.
So.
It was just, like I think it's brilliant. Yeah, we can go on about Zoya for hours. What I do think is neat is that in the show so far, she's just like this. People that don't know this story like saw her and probably didn't even think about her, but have no clue. Like that's a girl to watch out for, and you just wait. Like she might only have a couple lines here and there, but they cast her knowing where she's going. So
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think they're laying the groundwork there in the TV show, or I hope they are. It seems to be.
I hope so. Yeah, same here. So, thinking about that, what did you think of the Netflix adaptation of Shadow and Bone?
So I thought it was really super fun. I'm looking forward to next season. They have such a great cast. And I really loved the kind of extra stories that we got. I loved, some of the casting choices that they made that, differed from inside the book. And I also really loved seeing characters like Jesper and Bagra, who, I enjoyed in the books, but really that casting really brought new life to those characters.
Absolutely. I have never loved Jesper as much as I liked his character, but he wasn't ever brought to life until I saw him on that screen. And that was amazing. And Bagra was, yeah, you're right. It's like, it's incredible. It was go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, I do have one critique of the TV show, if I may.
Girl, I got some too.
So don't at me, y'all. I still loved the TV show, but this is my personal opinion, but I do think it's worth mentioning. So in the second to last episode 7, we get that little Darkling backstory that centers on like some of his pain and his angst being attributed to the killing of his lover, this healer girl, Luda.
When he creates the fold.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a real issue with this. There's a trope referred to as fridging. And this is where a male hero, or in this case, an anti-hero, is given motivation and reason for his actions through usually the death of a woman who has no real agency or story of her own. And so to me, this is what was happening here. Yeah. And it was just kind of sloppy and unnecessary, especially because we do have such great backstory for the Darkling in Even in the Woods that is so good, doesn't rely on something out of an old Mel Gibson movie, God help us all. So I'll get off my soapbox now. That bit may have worked for others, but it did not work for me. It's only 20 minutes of the entire season, so I don't sweat it, but I do think it's worth mentioning as kind of a harmful trope.
Hey, I get it, and I think you're right. It's very important to put these things out there because this podcast is because we love the Grishaverse. So, and that doesn't mean that we can't there's going to be things we dislike. There's going to be things, and that's important to talk about. I would hope that everybody on this show my gosh, if we didn't if we just sugarcoated this to be like, yes, we love every single thing, and never that's not the real world. So of course, yeah, there's I never thought of it that way, and I think that's really awesome that you brought that to our attention. And because that part was it's very unnecessary. And they could have actually really just the part that I enjoyed actually about that was just seeing it was after that. I just liked watching the fold being created. That was neat. But you're right. It's very unnecessary to show like this woman getting and she had no story whatsoever. And there's so many better ways to have done it. It could, yeah.
Yeah, I just thought it was unnecessary and a little sloppy, but they had a lot to pack into, just 8 episodes.
They did, but I wonder why they even put that in there. It's really is it so important in the first season to know that? Is that just protecting him, like trying to make him like, okay, like he had a reason. This is why he's gone bad. Like maybe is it?
I think you've got Ben Barnes. He's very handsome. It does seem, even renaming him, right? So calling him General Kerrigan and not the Darkling. I think they were trying to make him a more sympathetic character, and that's not wrong, right? I think they made a choice, and it'll be really curious to see how that kind of unfolds over the next 2 seasons. So, maybe we still get that Demon in the Woods background. That would be really fun.
Well, and what's going to be neat is, the next Demon in the Woods is going to have more in it. I'm excited to read a book that had because I like Demon in the Woods, but I will tell you that when I read that and I knew it was like the Darkling prequel, I was expecting more. I was I didn't expect that kind of story. It really surprised me, to be honest. I enjoyed it. I really did. But it was I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting that.
It's a short story. I think, whether or not we would ever want or get the full Darkling backstory, I don't know. I would never want it to take away from Alina's story. So, it's always that balance, right, between loving a world and wanting every single thing you can get out of it, but also, when is too much detail taking away from the core stories that the author has decided to tell? I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what Leigh thought was important to add to that story.
Yeah.
Because that'll we get to see that this year, thank goodness. So I've got a question real quickly that has to do with the show, and I didn't ask you ahead of time, but I just wanted to get your opinion on this. This is the part of the show that kind of freaked me out a little bit. When you saw how the amplifiers actually were put on a person besides the way they were described in the book, how do you feel about that?
I thought it was really cool, I have to say.
Yes.
My question is where they're going to go with it. So, because at the end, if I'm remembering correctly, after Alina kind of accepts her power, the antlers sink into her.
So, yeah. I'm wondering a lot of fashion choices are going to be very hard.
Curious. Yeah. So I think it's really cool. I think it's kind of darker and kind of grittier.
It is.
Just, you can see so closely Zoya with the tiger tooth coming out of her arm.
Yeah. And you see that in the very beginning, but I still didn't expect, I guess I didn't catch on. I didn't expect that because when they did that scene and we're not getting a necklace, we're not getting a collar, we're getting it infused into her. Oh my gosh, that was crazy for me. It just felt uncomfortable. I just you couldn't sleep, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's maybe something that I think is probably more visually striking, perhaps, to watch on television, right? Than seeing kind of just a necklace being clasped around her neck. So I'm wondering how much of the decision was aesthetic, right? Because I
Right.
think when you're on TV, it's always like, okay, is this going to look awesome? Great, just do it, which like I'm here for. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Or, if there is a larger, comment on amplifiers and the nature of amplifiers that will be made, I don't really know. We'll have to see what they decide to do.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to get your opinion because I wasn't expecting it, and it kind of like it really threw me. I was like, oh my god, oh my god. I was like, that's freaking me out. Like, I just like automatically was like, that would be so uncomfortable. You could never sleep. I mean, and then supposedly, like, she covers it up with a scarf in Siege and Storm. That's not going to be easy because covering up a collar, but like jetting out, oof. I just
Well,
can't run into
yeah.
people. Can't really
I
hug people.
mean,
Got to be very careful. I mean, that's what I'm thinking about, I guess. Like, I mean, hugging people's not going to be easy. I wouldn't want to hug somebody with antlers coming out.
it's fair. You'd have to watch the prongs very carefully.
Yeah. So, okay. Still, amplifiers are amazing. They are one of my favorite parts to the book. So, okay. Last little question for you. I am very interested in this. What would you be the Sancta of?
So this was the hardest question out of all the ones we talked about discussing.
That's why I'm excited.
I kept thinking like I would be the Sancta of reading, or I would be like the Sancta of like whatever. And then I was like, no. This is real talk, y'all.
Uh-huh.
I am the Sancta of not doing your dishes.
Oh my god.
Because here's a life lesson that I realized lately. If you don't do your dishes, like before you go away for a long weekend, nobody comes to arrest you. Okay? Should you do your dishes? Yes. Okay. But like at the end of the day, life is short. Nobody is going to get you in trouble if you don't do the dishes. If you're an adult, something else to look forward to if you're not an adult yet. So that's my life lesson. I am the Sancta of not doing your dishes. Do something you enjoy instead.
Oh my god. Okay, so you are like, so are you I mean, my question now is, are you rigid and like, I mean, dishes have to be done? No, you're saying like, I mean, they can just sit there and pile up.
I'm saying, don't be like dirty or unhygienic, but at the same time, like if there's something that you would like to do better, life is short, go do that instead.
That is a very good life lesson. I like that, and I love it.
Eryk will now never come to my house for dinner after he's heard this secret about me, but that's okay.
Actually, no, it's fine because I hate doing dishes. Like I really like, and I remember like when I was younger and didn't like the apartments didn't have like dishwashers, so like doing dishes was like doing dishes. Ugh, and yeah. So, anyways, I think it'll be great. So we've got to get moving. That was amazing, though. I can't believe we've already spent so much time and we were just in the introduction questions. But hey, we have wanted to do this for a while. So we've got a fun little game that it's called, okay, so my idea was, we all are wondering, what is season 2 going to be like? How's that going to happen? Because, I mean, we all know the stories. How are they going to go from here? So at first I was like talking to Amelia. I was like, okay, so maybe we should like just discuss and kind of like try to figure it out. And Amelia was like, how about we take it a step further? How about we just be the writers in the writing room and write what the season will be like? And I was like, okay, challenge accepted. So that is what we are going to discuss and kind of go through. So real quickly, I think it is important to understand where we kind of left off with the show before we get anywhere else. Like, I mean, just a lot of stuff happened in the end, but you will remember it. But there are some key things to remember. Like, so Alina escaped the skiff with the crows, Mal and Zoya, and Alina gives Kaz a jewel in exchange that he not share any information about her or that she's alive. I think that's a very key thing that they threw in there, by the way. So they all go their separate ways, and crows are going back to Ketterdam. Zoya is going to see if her family survived from the Darkling attack, and Mal and Alina are going off to figure out still how to destroy the fold. Oh, and Nina and Matthias are now at their horrible disagreement area, like part where, he gets arrested and she's like, I was trying to save your life, and he hates her. The crows are all on the same ship going back to Ketterdam, where they discuss they're needing a heart renderer. Nina overhears. We know where this is going. Last scene, Darkling walks out, alive from the fold, and who's he got with him but the Nichavoya, which is great because it's just like that was an amazing ending. Did you like it? Like, I loved that.
Yeah, I did. I thought, just that last scene where he comes out of the fold is really, really just incredible. And it sets it up for, I think, a lot of different ways that the writing room can take it.
I agree. And it's kind of like the Volcra. I was excited to see what they look like. The Nichavoya, they're huge. Like, yeah. That is insane.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Okay, so what do you think? Like, I'm going to let you go first. Like, that's
okay. Fun. So this is tough, I have to say. I kind of see why they have a writing room, right? Like a whole kind of group of people to come up with ideas. Because I confess, I kind of pitched this idea to Eryk and then kind of regretted it when it came to came time to sit down and do it. But here's kind of my rough outline of what I would do. So they're all in Kerch, right? They're all headed to Ketterdam as far as we can tell. I would kind of cut out Novia Zem altogether, right? So I would have everybody just goes to Kerch. Maybe Alina and Mal head to the countryside to work on a farm, just like in Novia Zem, except they can, work in the fields instead of packing Jerva.
So wait, you're saying Alina and Mal still are going to? They're not going to Kerch, right? Or they're going to Novia?
No, I would have them go to Kerch. So everybody goes to Kerch on the same boat, and they go their separate ways.
Okay. So that's assuming that they were on the same boat, because they're
on the same boat.
We don't really know that though, because
I kind of assumed that.
I see someone else said that, but also we don't really. I don't think we really know. We know that they all went onto ships, but I don't think they're on the same boat. I don't, but maybe I will have to look back and see.
Okay.
Okay. So they're all going to Kerch.
In my version, they're all on the same boat and they all go to Kerch. And then I would have them split up. Because here's what I want to do with the first episode. I want to introduce Stormpond, but I don't want to do it as it's done in Siege and Storm. I want to do it with the crows. I think you could have a really, really fun intro where Stormpond, our favorite privateer, has already run afoul of Kazbrecker and comes back onto the scene, owes him money, tried to cheat him and failed. I think there's a really funny way somehow to introduce that character.
Yes.
And set the crows up on their own path. Because what I would do is, in season 2, I would basically episode 2, I would basically pick up with Siege and Storm, with having the Darkling find them, take them on the whaling ship and go from there. And then I would not have the two stories connect again in season 2. I would really want to focus on giving the crows time to really come together as a team as much as you can at this point in the story. Bring Nina on board, deal with Dreesen, deal with Pekka Rollins at this point, and get us some time to enjoy Ketterdam. That to me is just one of the joys of Cricket Kingdom is spending time in this city. And we didn't get enough of it, in my opinion, in season 1. I don't know what you do with Matthias because he's in Hellgate. So maybe, I don't know, the trials and tribulations of the Kerch court system.
Well, yeah, he's just waiting there.
But I would keep them separate. The reason being is that I think at the end of season 1, you have this moment between Inej and Alina where Inej kind of says, while they're sitting around their sad little campfire, if you ever need me, I'll be here for you. And I just think that paying forward that debt and having Inej come through and come back to help Alina is going to be so much more powerful if it's done in season 3. So let the crows do their own thing. They really deserve their own time to shine. And then I would stick with Siege and Storm as basically as closely as I could.
Yeah. So I love it. I didn't do like so. I think that's great. Like I didn't go and think about scenes. I mean episodes. I kind of was trying to figure out like okay, like how could this work? Um, because so like I mean I get it. Like I had to kind of go back and remember like so I went that's why it was important for me to remember how did this end? Like where did we end up? And because we we all know like I mean the crow like I mean we the only stuff that we saw in the first season that had been written was Matthias and Nina's story.
Mhm.
Everything else was really cool. However, I think they were very smart in making sure that Alina gave him that brooch and said, "Hey, like, and this is an exchange that you don't say a single thing about me or never saw me or don't know anything about me." So it's kind of like Crows and Alina and Mal have never met or anything. So it's actually kind of a clean slate. But if
Mhm.
you remember in Siege and Storm, that's how Alina gets caught by the Darkling. Is the Darkling finds like the beat
Oh
like
yeah.
so
The hairpins.
yeah, so I think there's gonna be a connection there. Um
Ooh.
what I want is like I what I was focusing on is like I don't care about the fact that like Six of Crows started years after this trilogy because I thought about it. There is nothing besides the fact that just there's a war beforehand, but it doesn't change anything or it's not dynamic to the story for them not. Am I wrong? Maybe I am. Please tell me because I I know they discuss in Six of Crows about the war. I mean, how they like it's brought up, but I don't think like I mean like there's because I want them to I want her like to I want Leigh to be able to have fun too. But I also want the story. I really want to see Siege and Storm. I think that'd be amazing. Um, but I would love to see the Ice Court. And I think you're right with Sturmhond. I think he is definitely going to have a big role and be with the Crows. However, like I mean, I mean Lee's gonna be very careful because Lee was. I've heard her talk about how she's trying to stay to the story, give us some extra stuff, but also she's not gonna tear apart her story.
Mhm.
Um, so what do you, I saw you, I feel like you're thinking, what do you have to say? Please tell me. What do you
I
think?
just so I do wish that there was a way to kind of like jumpstart the ice court. I think my issue with that is the Darkling. For me it's hard to
Yeah.
imagine Jorda Param being a thing that exists and him not instantly like inserting himself into that.
So that's exactly where I was gonna go. So what's funny is I was thinking about it. So, because that's the at the end of the episode we don't understand what the crows are talking about and getting together like they don't explain why they need a heartrender.
Mm-mm.
Okay. um so what if they don't have to break into the ice court for something like maybe they're breaking the ice court for something else. Maybe it has nothing to do with Jurda Parim. Um, maybe it's something that is connected somehow to like. I think it could be a very interesting way. Like Nikolai could like I don't know. There's lots of ways to go with it. Um, because Jurda Parim, I thought the same thing. I was like, if you have Jurda Parim, then it's get like the Darkling would be on top of that in a hot minute. However, that would definitely give somebody like Nikolai the reason to hire someone to go and get the scientist. And
Mhm.
then like but then that's gonna start changing around Siege and Storm.
Yeah.
Like we've gotta like So what I hope happens is like, okay, so the new actors we know that we've got we're gonna get something with Six of Crows. I think we're gonna get some kind of ice court story because we're getting all of our crows finally now. And I don't think they would have done it I just don't think they would have done it if they didn't need to yet. So I think we're gonna get the ice court. However, there's two ways this can go. I think they could do both Siege and Storm and Six of Crows at the same time. However, they're gonna have they could. Game of Thrones had lots of stories go on that weren't connected at all for seasons.
Yeah.
Our only connection was just the beginning. They don't have to connect again. You said that.
Right.
But another thought that I had is they could also fast track and do Siege and Storm and Ruin and Rising. I'd hope not.
I mean,
But you could see it happening though.
yeah.
I'm just saying but I think what will be fun and neat is I think they have an opportunity to the reason I think what's going to be fun is, and I have no clue what it is, and I should have come up with one, but changing around why the crows go to the ice court. I think it's going to have something to actually do with connecting the stories a little bit.
Yeah.
Somehow.
I guess for me, I really hope that every book gets its own season. I think I would love to see it spaced out that way. I mean, selfishly, I would love to have, Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom get its own season because I would love to see some Triumvirate and Nikolai backstory happening on the side. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I hope the show continues to do well. I hope it continues to be popular. I hope Netflix continues to give Eric Heiserer a lot of cash.
I know.
Show.
And I agree. I want every book to have a season or a movie. And I was worried when they said that they were putting all these characters together, in the season. Because I was like, that's amazing, but it's scary. It did great. However, now, I'm sorry, but it is totally built up for them to go directly into the ice court story. But it's also has to go into the direction of Siege and Storm too. So, you know what? That's why you had a really good one where you put out episodes and decisions. I think,
I was more and then something happens with Nikolai and then we go over here. It was not that well thought out.
Well, pretty much my ending would be the end. Vasily would die. We'd have the end of that. I do hope that the end of season 2 is that last scene should be a shot of Alina open her eyes and her having white hair. And going, that should be how it ends. Because I love that part.
Yeah.
I do. And I just think it's really cool. But, yeah, it's hard. So anyways, I think we did good for writing in the writer's room.
Totally.
So, okay. So the next part is going to be fun. This is we took the Grishaverse cast. We just put them all in high school. So this is the senior class of Grishaverse High 2022, y'all. Okay, so this started out with me just having the idea of wanting to give the characters superlatives, and it changed. So, anyways, we both had a list and decided to give each character put each one with them. So anyways, I'm going to let you go first because mine got a little out of hand and I promise I'll go quickly. Or do you think we should do back and forth?
I don't know. What do you prefer? Here I am in high school.
Let's see. Okay. let's go. You do yours and then I'll do mine because I think that will
Okay.
make more sense.
I'll do mine. So, valedictorian.
Mhm.
I know it seems like David is the obvious answer, but I'm going to go with Tolia here. I think Tolia's like really studying hard, and I think David's like off chasing butterflies.
I thought about David too, but I knew he wouldn't want to get up on stage and do it.
Also, good point. Class clown, Tamar. I think she's just got it. That girl's hilarious. And like, the axes are key prank material.
Absolutely.
Senior class president is our girl Zoya, ruling through fear and intimidation. Most likely to repeat senior year, Mal. I'm sorry. It's just we know it's Mal.
I did the same thing.
Okay, like I hate that that's what springs to mind, but that's where it is.
I know.
Most likely to be on a reality show, Yuri. I know it's kind of a hot take, but I feel like he has a lot to say and, a desire for kind of stardom.
I love that you did that because I thought of Yuri too. Anyways, continue. That's great.
Most school spirit is Jenya, but like in an understated way. Okay. Like she is the one who helps, organize the prom and like does all the behind the scenes stuff because she really cares and wants it to be a nice place for everybody. Because that's the Jenya we know and love. Prom queen. This one I actually had a hard time with, but I think Alina, but kind of like by accident.
Okay. Like she didn't actually get.
No, it was like a surprise. No, it's like at the end of every teen movie where the star, the nerd suddenly becomes prom queen.
Oh, yeah.
Captain of the football team is obviously Ivan.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's perfect. Yeah.
And then head cheerleader is obviously Marie.
Oh my God. Okay.
Those are my answers.
That's awesome. Okay, so those of you that know me, I go a little crazy. So when I started this, I was just going through the list and figuring out. However, it then turned into like literally like an actual high school with the entire Grishaverse cast in there. So get ready because I added things and yeah. Okay, so my valedictorian, I put Wylan. And then class clown is Nikolai. Senior class president, this is going to sound weird, I know, is a Nej, but I just think she would kind of, I just think she's kind of in charge. Most likely to repeat senior year was Mal. I did the same thing. Most likely to be on a reality show, otherwise known as Crazy Pants, Dunyasha from Crooked Kingdom.
That's such a good answer. I love it.
Okay, but wait till this next one. Okay, this is going to throw you off because it gets really kind of crazy. So maybe I should probably... yeah, because you're going to think I'm insane. So I'm going to skip real quickly to the captain of the football team. The captain of the football team, I actually gave to the Darkling. And the reason why is because I couldn't get out of my head that the prom queen and the head cheerleader usually were two different people, if not, and they always kind of wanted to be with the Darkling. So I gave head cheerleader to Alina, and then the prom queen is Zoya because they actually had, kind of trying to. But then that led me on this really crazy path. This is where it gets a little nuts. So my most school spirit goes to the apparat because I love just imagining the apparat like just being so. I told you I put everyone in here, so I want a visual of it. Like okay, so then this is where I started adding some things. So I realized I didn't have some characters. So the principal, by the way, is Kaz. Because I was like, he'd rule everything. Okay, well, that's the principal, right? Okay, so then, most likely to skip, well, that's Jesper, of course.
Yeah.
And then I've got the ISS administrator slash coach of the football team is Matthias.
Yes.
Now, I put Nina in here. She's a student who's a troublemaker who just cannot, who's getting in trouble on purpose to get in school suspension.
Wow.
I know. And I'm almost done. Lunch lady, I gave that to Bagra. And then Pekka Rollins is the janitor. So I could have gone further, but we had to end it. So, yeah, I told you, but it was fun. I had
what this, which I love all of these things, by the way, but this has given just Pekka Rollins with his kind of like red beard and sideburns will now forever be in my head as the groundskeeper from The Simpsons. Like, thank you for that image that I will never for the life of me be able to get in my head. That was amazing.
Well, mine is the apparat wearing some kind of like the male cheerleader uniform. Like,
I mean,
I want to see it.
Man's enthusiastic about his own passion, so we'll get
exactly. That's why I was like, he's got the most school spirit because I mean, he is so passionate about his stuff, his cult. Okay, so we've got a what if. You have a what if. You came up.
I have a what if for you. So here's what it is. So, what if Zoya had stayed loyal to the Darkling at the end of Shadow and Bone and didn't go to fight for Alina?
This is a brilliant one because it means a lot to me. And everything would change because that's just a very big part. It's huge. So she wouldn't be helping. It scares me because I don't know if she would ever go back to be on the right side because if she wasn't upset with the Darkling at that moment, then there's never going to be another moment that she would that was the moment where she was finally like, okay, I have followed his power and that is insane. That's too much. That's where I draw the line. And if she didn't draw the line there, then she totally would just be with him. She would be his second in command. I think he would almost actually start to... I think he'd kind of start to forget about Alina because Zoya's really powerful. You got to remember, she was his best student. I think he would try to start molding her into her own very special power. Try to go get the amplifiers and give them to her. I just think it'd go very dark. I don't think we'd end up where we are, which my favorite thing is, Zoya being queen, and she wouldn't be there. She'd die along the line, I'm pretty sure.
I think that she's enough of a realist that, after Alina would defeat the Darkling, she would get a pardon, right? She would switch sides. I see her being just enough of a kind of pragmatic to do that. But at the same time, I agree. I don't think, if she didn't turn then, you don't really see her ever rising to be in the triumvirate or kind of having that role of power. You just kind of see her being a mid-level and very resentful Grisha kind of for the rest of her life, which is just sad. But yeah, I'm sorry. This wasn't meant to be sad.
No, but it's just true because we care. The only reason she is a member of the Triumvirate is because she gains Alina's trust through all that stuff when she was horrible to Alina. So, yeah. You're right. So, if she didn't turn back then I don't think there would be ever a way that she'd get there because she wouldn't learn the lessons. And even if she got pardoned, she still wouldn't be part of the government. She wouldn't be able to help. She wouldn't end up with Nikolai. She wouldn't, oh my God, she wouldn't get to meet Juris and get all this power. She wouldn't so much stuff. So, that
Nasikinsky dynasty.
I know. That is I never realized how that one thought thank God she does it. Whew. Because I love where it goes. But That's a good one. So our very last segment is we're calling it "What Are We Reading?" and we just kind of I know Amelia wants to share some different suggestions of what you could read, and I also want to like talk about what are we actually reading? What do we love? So
Yeah. So Eryk and I were talking about like what do we read after we've, reread Shadow and Bone, the Grishaverse several times, and you're looking for something new, but you still love like certain elements of it.
Yeah.
And for me, one of the things that I'm kind of a sucker for is fantasy or sci-fi novels that are kind of Russia inflected or inspired. And I love that about the Grishaverse. It's very fun. There's a series of novels that are more sci-fi than fantasy. They're not super sciencey, that are called the Borkosigan Saga, and they're by a woman named Lois McMaster Bujold. And the world is very Russia inflected. And one of the main characters, a character named Miles, is crafty and plotting and clever in a way that would give Kaz Brecker a run for his money. So highly encourage you all to check out the Vorkosigan Saga. And there's a million of them, so you can read a lot of them.
That's awesome. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I am one I just read this and I just had when it comes out, you need to read The Lost Dreamer. That was actually an incredible book. It comes out March 1st, but it really is a great, because what I like is unique fantasy. If things get, I hate reading things that are too like have so many similarities and they're different worlds, but they're so similar and like I can't stand that stuff. I mean, so I love it when it's unique. We already talked Holly Black. I love I love the Cruel Prince trilogy, just because it's new. However, I love fairy tales. I'm on this really big kick of reading some retellings and trying to find some really good ones. That's the hard part because some of them aren't. I'm reading right now something called Spindlefire, and I'm actually really enjoying it. Sleeping Beauty is my all-time favorite, next to Snow White. And this is a really good retelling. I'm really enjoying it. So I like that. Yeah.
So may I recommend another fairy retelling for you?
Yes, please do.
So it's called Spinning Silver, and it's by Naomi Novik. And it's also
Okay.
Russian inflected. It's a Rumpelstiltskin retelling.
Okay.
But the main character is a Jewish woman.
What?
In kind of, yeah, wait for it. In kind of like medieval Ukraine, Russia. But she's the money lender. And so she has to go and collect money from everybody in the town because her father hates to go ask for money, but like they're starving.
Oh my God.
It's so good. It's so beautiful. It's got some really interesting fantasy twists to it. Spinning Silver. It's amazing.
I will check that out. See, that's funny because I'm Jewish, but Jews don't belong in fantasy. I don't think we're too oi. I mean, there's just so I can't imagine them in fantasy, but that's amazing. I will have to check that out. Another one I'm reading right now actually is I've started the Dragonlance series, which is one of the books series that inspired Leigh. And it's kind of cool to read those because you can start to see you can actually see the inspiration. It's amazing to see that stuff. So I love it. Yeah, and I'm reading that, but I'm really fairy tales and fairies. I love The Cruel Prince was great. However, my favorite stories about fairies actually is it's the Iron it's by Julie Kagawa. She is not anywhere which is crazy. These were written 10 years ago. But read the first. It's called The Iron King, and I love it because if you've read Shakespeare and A Midsummer Night's Dream, then this is it's Alice in Wonderland meets Fairyland, but off of actual folklore. So, like, I mean, Titania and Puck are actually real fairies, which I think is really cool to put in there. Yeah, so anyways, I love everything fairies.
That sounds really, really fun.
It is.
Another one that I wanted to recommend for people who just love like the tropes of young adult, right? So like young women finding their powers, like love triangles, like Legend Born by by Tracy Dion is so good. It came out about 2 years ago. It's won a ton of awards. The sequel's coming out this summer. The premise is that, well, the background is that there is a secret society in today's world of people who are descended from King Arthur and his knights.
Oh, wow.
And wait, it gets better. And they fight demons.
Oh my God.
Here's what makes it amazing. The heroine is a young Black woman who kind of confronts this secret society that is not welcoming to her and still has to kind of find her place and her destiny. It's so good.
Wow.
So good, so good. Everybody should go read it immediately.
That's awesome. That is really, and you actually just helped me realize that I remember, like, specifically when I did finish everything Grishaverse, the only book that it took me a while to find it, but the series, A Darker Shade of Magic, when I picked that up, that was like, oh my God, okay, thank God. And that was great. There's only 3 of them right now. However, isn't she doing another one?
She's writing another 3. It's going to be so great.
Really? Oh my gosh.
She's writing, they're called Threads of Power, and it's going to be another trilogy, and she's writing the first one right now. I'm so excited.
Okay.
Those are so good.
Please, I thought she forgot about it, to be honest, because like, I just all these other books, but that is an amazing one that, yeah, love Darker Shade of Magic. And yeah, I think those are the ones that got me through. Darker Shade of Magic, discovering Holly Black, because they were like, the fairy thing was really good for me. I loved that, but Darker Shade of Magic is some really wicked, like, intense, like, cool stuff. And I love things with maps. So,
fairies kind of. There's a trilogy called, well, the first one is called City of Brass. And it's basically, they're djinn instead of fairies because it's, I don't want to say Middle Eastern inflected because that's too narrow, but it's really, really excellent. And I'm reading the last right now. Really good.
Okay. I will definitely try it. Yeah, because I love all that stuff. Are there any, I know we were just talking about reading, but is there any shows you recommend?
Oh gosh, TV shows.
I know I don't watch a lot of it. I
watch a lot of bad TV.
Oh, you watch bad TV?
I just really watch bad TV.
I know a lot of yous out there. Chris, my husband and I, we just stream everything. So I've been watching a lot of streaming stuff. But I can't wait. Reading is where it's at. I'm actually going to go and pleasure read for the first time in a very long time this afternoon. So, well, Amelia, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun to talk about a book we love so much. I really appreciate you having me on here.
Well, thank you so much for being such an amazing member of my staff, and thank you for coming on. And this is not the last time. This is like, I love it because I knew we were going to have fun when we reached like our 40-minute mark and we just did our intro questions. So that means we needed to talk. So anyways, thank you so much for coming on. Love you, listeners. I'll see you guys next week. So long live the Grishaverse.
Like, we're at the end of the hour, so my voice is a little husky. A+.
No mourners.
No funerals.
This has been GrishaCast. Connect with us on the web at GrishaCast.com. Send an email to info@GrishaCast.com. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. And thank you so much to our amazing, amazing staff. Chris, Alex, Michelle, and Chloe.